Welcome, this is Josh Rees with Mile High Church in Lakewood, Colorado. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. For more information about our church, please visit our website, milehighchurch.org.
20 years ago, wife Erica and I had this massive, beautiful experience when our first grandchild, Daisy, was put in our arms. She's now in her college years, hard to fathom. And following her came 4 other beautiful lights into our life. Hazel, Roy, Francis, Henry. And we just felt like we were in the lap of luxury, an embarrassment of riches as grandparents. Then, 6 weeks ago, our youngest son and his daughter presented us with a 6th grandchild, little Nico. Here I am basking over little Nico. Here's Erica doing the same. That's a couple of weeks ago. He was getting bigger and bigger. What a joy. 20 years ago, when Daisy was born, I was moved to write a message about that. And with Nico here now, it just feels right to share it again, refresh it a little for him, for our grandchildren, and for all of us, because it has some deep themes, important ones. But first, what a joy to be a grandparent. Those of you who are our grandparents, you know, it's wonderful to be among the most beloved people in these young parents' lives, mostly because we spoiled them thoroughly and then give them back. And as Ogden Nash once wrote, that when grandparents enter the door, discipline flies out the window. And that's very true. But on the more genuine and serious side about grandparenting, back then I realized grandparents are the wisdom bearers of the tribe. And that's what moved me to want to write a message about the life keys that it would be great for children to know early on their journey of life. The life keys that, if known and not forgotten, if remembered, would open up greater and greater avenues of fulfillment, creativity, love, joy, and purpose in their lives. And I've realized that these are exactly the same kind of themes that we need to keep current and alive in our hearts as we practice truth principles and the science of mind and spirit. So I want to offer you today some basic guideposts on the journey. Our topic is Guideposts for a Great Life. Guideposts that may seem at first blush to be very basic, but I tell you what, if you're going to have a great life, you better be brilliant in the basics, brilliant and masterful in the basics. 7 guideposts for our journey. The first one is God's gotcha. God's gotcha. When little Nico is old enough to understand and knows how much we love him, that's what I want to whisper over and over again to him. God's gotcha. Little Nico, God's gotcha. There are 5 words in the Bible that I think are extremely important for every one of us to remember. Underneath are the everlasting arms. You feel those arms underneath your spirit? We can fall oblivious to it, that's for sure. But I believe that the child's heart in every one of us yearns to have that experience. I don't know what your age is, but it doesn't matter what your age is, what your belief systems are. There's something deep within that yearns to deepen into the feeling and knowing that there's a greater something that loves us, that supports us. Underneath are the everlasting arms. That this divine spirit is holding us and nurturing us and infusing us with its energy, its strength, its encouragement, its love, its healing energy. There's something in us that wants to know this of a certainty. And I'll tell him, best way I can, that it's when we forget this that fear creeps into our lives. And we become not love-based beings, but fear-based beings. But we don't have to stay in that. That we can return to the most powerful place in us that fear can't touch, and that's the heart. and that we can go to our hearts and warm our hearts and feel ourselves being connected into that love energy that holds us, that has birthed us. And we can bathe in the sanctuary of light and renew ourselves and step forward in a wonderful and a beautiful way. Yeah, this is what I want us to remember today. God's got you. And it's what I want to know at a deeper and more powerful level. I want to tell Nico that when you fall down in life, God's got you. When you get hurt in life, God's got you. Amidst your setbacks and your successes, God's got you. When somebody breaks your heart, God's got you. And when someone you love lays aside their body and seems to leave you, God's got you. And God's got them. Yeah, plant that guidepost on the pathway. That first guidepost, God's got you. And the second one, build within. Yeah, I want to help Nico comprehend as I seek to remind myself that life is an inner job. The game of life is an inner job. And we can be easily attached to and compelled by the outer in this life. So easily. But it's the inner things that most matter. It's our dreams, our vision, it's our creativity. It's an awakened consciousness, a spiritually inspired consciousness. That's what matters. That's what's essential. That's what makes everything in life a miracle and not a drudgery. I'll probably tell him about the Easterner who has traveled here to the West and took a long bus trip to see some of the sights, but he was unmoved by any of it. He just wasn't available to it. He scoffed at the Grand Canyon. He poo-pooed our beautiful Rocky Mountains. He disliked the magic of the desert. And he didn't think much about Yellowstone Park. Finally, the bus driver had enough of that. And he just said to him, "Man, when you haven't got it inside, you can't see it outside." Yeah, and that's so true, isn't it? I would want to say those words Ernest Holmes declared over and over again. There is a power for good in the universe, greater than we are, and we can use it. And it can work with us. We can use it. And I'll tell him, we regularly need to do some inner house cleaning. Every one of us. Because the dirt creeps in, the grime, the drudge and the sludge of life creeps in. We get caught up in our judgments and our misperceptions and our fears, and we need to do some thorough house cleaning. Like the spring cleaning that's going to come up, here soon, hopefully. And we're going to open the windows and let in some fresh air. And we need to do that regularly so that we can build up our energy within. In the Course of Miracles, it's written, there's a place in you where there is perfect peace. There is a place in you where nothing is impossible. And there is a place in you where the strength of God abides. So build within. Build within. The third guidepost, so essential, is choose creatively. Oh, how important to learn early on the incredible power of our choosing in this life. Choosing. That's a message every one of us needs, and we need it early on as we can get it, especially for our young people. That's why we have such a pride in the youth ministry here, is to help young people know early on the truth of who they are and how their choice matters and how it impacts their life. I would say to Nico that every person, on average, makes at least 5,000 choices each and every day. Very few of those choices are conscious and by design. Most of them are by default, defaulting to previous choices, usually ones that do not serve us. Knee-jerk reactions to old ideas and limitations that we have stored within. saying yes to letting people manipulate us with those ideas, yet it's still a choice. Trying not to choose, but that's a choice as well. That our power to choose is overall in our life. As Ernest Holmes wrote, you cannot live a choiceless life. You just cannot. But it's especially our choices of our thoughts and our beliefs that write the script so much in our life. That our choices either create, or they promote, or they allow the tendencies of the experiences along the path for us. But we don't have to stay victims to whatever's in form in our life. We can be renewed within ourselves. We can choose anew, a new stance, a new direction. We can choose to summon the energies within us, to rise above the appearances around us. We can choose. That's the way to live this life. Probably tell him about Professor Virchow. Maybe you remember me telling you about this long ago, but Professor Virchow had an interesting experience. In his day, in the 1800s, there was a statesman named Bismarck. And Bismarck would fight a duel over just about anything. And at one particular point, unbeknownst to him, he felt that Professor Virchow had offended him. So he immediately declared a duel. You shall meet me in a duel. Now, when anybody declares a duel, the other party has the privilege of selecting the weapons for the duel. Well, Virchow was a scientist, not a fighter, but it was his job to do that. So on the day of the duel, early in the morning, he went out to the field of honor, and Bismarck showed up and he said, "Sir, it is your privilege and responsibility to choose the weapons for our duel. What shall they be?" And with that, Professor Virchow produced 2 big, juicy sausages. And proceeded to explain to Bismarck that one of these sausages has been injected with a lethal poison. The other is perfectly good eating. And so he said, "So, my dear Bismarck, let us sit down and dine together." Well, with that, Bismarck took it all in, knowing that one of those was sure death, and he turned red-faced and left the field in dishonor. And I just love that. I just love the thought of this duel being fought, and it's not two people flailing away at each other, but some sausages being eaten. And you know, each and every day, we have a similar situation in our life of choosing the healthy or the toxic. Maybe it's what somebody says. What's my choice going to be about that? Am I going to choose a toxic judgment and animosity and let that brew within me and create the toxins and poisons that resentment does? Something somebody does to me, I'll have the healthy and the unhealthy choice before me. What shall it be? What shall it be? Poisonous or toxic? Choose wisely and get creative. Here's a kind of a principle that one can use in choosing. Does the choice I'm about to make line up with my highest idea of myself and my highest vision for my life? Does the choice I'm about to make, is it true to my highest idea of me and my highest vision for my life? If we can remember to bring that litmus test to our choosing, we'll be choosing wisely and creating a greater and more beautiful path before us. Choose creatively. The next one is very important and one that I learned long ago. Trust love. Trust love. That's the 4th guidepost for a great life. I would explain that many forget the love that just oozed from them when they were kids, when they were children. Life happens. Things happen. People get hurt and unwittingly close the most powerful part of them, their hearts. And that people stop trusting love. And that in fact the ego structure built on a sense of inadequacy and separation, defends against love. And somehow we get bogged down and life gets drained of its magic. We've got to learn to trust love again. The awakened masters have come along and said to us, God is love. Not God is loving, but God is love. And love is the great elixir. It's the healing energy. And perfect love casts out fear. The masters have told that. But then I'll just say to Nico, let me tell you, I've been a student of this. I realized in my early 30s that I had a closed and protected heart, given some of the things going on in my earlier life. And I began to be aware that it was blocking me. But that awareness came through another wounding. And what at the time felt like a terrible betrayal, searing me with pain to the core of my being. And I'll just help him understand that that was actually a heartbreak that was helping me open my heart. It was a heart-opening opportunity. And thank God, I give thanks every day, that there were people around me who could remind me, and that my own journey, it was time for me to see that guidepost and do whatever it took to begin to trust love. And that I found my way to the opportunity to have a massive heart opening that recharged and redirected the entire trajectory of my life from that point on. That everything in my life began to blossom. My ministry blossomed, and I wouldn't have experienced anything like I had in the many, many years that followed, had that not happened. My life became magic. I became happier. I began to have more functional relationships until that day in 1987, standing out on the patio in front of our former sanctuary. I could turn around and I could see Erica there. And I had eyes to see and a heart to feel that something was different here. Something was intended here. And I didn't know what to do, because I didn't want to come across as one of those ministers. So I buddied up to her boys. Now my boys. They were 5 and 8. They'd lost their dad several years earlier. And they're such beautiful souls. And I said, you guys, whenever you're here, come see me, okay? They said, yeah. And I said, bring your mom. And one thing led to another. Do you know how much beauty is there for you when you trust love? And yeah, you may be afraid for a while. Oh, it is so worth it. It is so worth it. What I learned, and what I'll tell Nico, is that I used to think years earlier in my life that love was a commodity and people could take your love and take it away from you. That's never true. Love isn't a commodity. Love is an energy within every one of us, a reality. And we are the love we're seeking. But life says, you want more of it? You got to give it away. You got to open it up. And that's what I learned to do, and you can too. Don't close your heart. Trust love. Now the next guidepost is a companion to it. The 5th guidepost is pain passes. Now I'll explain to little Nico that pain happens in life. We experience pain of one kind or another as human beings. That's because we're feeling beings, and it's a good thing. But that pain can also get riveted into us and can close us from the greater joys of life. And I'll tell him that while pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. We suffer most because we resist. It's like the metaphor of the Persian rug. You turn it over on its backside, and it looks like this ugly jumble of threads and making no sense, and it's not attractive. And when we're in the midst of a painful experience, the world looks like that to us. But there is a flip side. And there comes that point when we're ready to turn the rug over and see the greater beauty of it. And see how even that which seemed disorder and chaotic produced a beautiful expression. More life. There's always more life on the other side of our pain. And I'll try to impress that upon this beautiful soul. And I will tell him about his grandmother, Erica, also known to the grandchildren as Mimi. I'll tell them about her and how she lost her husband, her first husband, to leukemia when Nico's dad and uncle were just 3 and 5, and how painful that was for her. And how she entered into her grieving, also committed to being a strong mom for those boys. And that she would then, after she adjusted to this and let the grieving flow, she could again open her heart and have the realization after a couple of years that she needed to orchestrate a new chapter of her life. The setting needed to change. She needed to open in that new chapter to new friendships, and she was already in a big circle of friends where she had been living. And she blessed them, but she said, I must embark on the new. And she did. And she moved here to Denver. And nobody's happier than me that she was willing to do that I could meet her, marry her, adopt the boys, help raise them, and now be a grandparent. And I'll just say, talk to her about it, because there's another side to pain. Feel your feelings. Don't stuff that. There's nothing wrong with the pain, the feelings. Just don't close yourself. Keep your heart open, or find that moment where you turn over the carpet and you see the beauty and you re-embrace life. And then you can do a whole lot of forgiving. You can forgive others, forgive yourself, forgive God, whatever you need to forgive, that you might move back into the fullness of your beautiful journey. Pain passes. And the sixth guidepost on the path would be, keep playing. Oh, how sad it is whenever we lose the wisdom of a playful heart in our life, the energy of a playful heart. I mean, we're here to play the game of life. And there's times we make life seem so blasted serious. But indeed, it is a game, and we're meant to have joy in this life. And we're meant to go for it in this life, however we want. And our playful spirit contains so many qualities. I hope that Nico will remember that the energies he has as a child, the creativity, the sensitivity, the truth-telling, the imagination, the openness, all of these are powerful qualities not to lose as you get older in this life. And I think a whole lot of us need to reclaim them so that we can keep playing the game. I'll tell him about a story, a true story I've shared many times before, about a guy named Roy Regals, playing in a college Rose Bowl football game. The other team fumbles. He picked it up and ran the wrong direction and scored a touchdown for the other team. And how he went into the locker room at halftime, dejected and weeping and sitting off in a corner, telling his coach, Coach, I can't go out. I can't face the crowd. And that coach grabbed him by the shoulder pads and he said, Roy, get up and go back. The game isn't over yet. And he got it. And he went out and played like he'd never played before and helped his team on to a victory. I hope that Nico and all of us will remember that the most beautiful and important things in our life are our dreams and our vision and our heart. And there'll be times when we've got a dream we care about. We'll take some steps. And not always does everything work out. And sometimes things crumble. Sometimes we fumble or score a reverse touchdown on some endeavor. We got to remember, get up and go back. The game isn't over yet. And if we'll do that with our whole heart and keep playing, we've got to end up being winners. We will. Keep playing. And then finally, maybe a very powerful guidepost. Plant that on your journey. Go long. Go long. This one is about the intention to play full out, not halfway. Life, the glory of life is not in how safe we keep ourselves, but how we go for it. How we play this game of life. And I'll try to say to Nico, the quality life is determined by how much quality you give to life. To have a quality life, you've got to give quality to this life. Give ourselves. What we give of ourselves determines what we experience in this life. As we give, so do we receive. And I'll remind him or tell him, teach him, that we are in the express business. That we're here to be expressions, meaning imparting, staying open to a flow of all the creativity and uniqueness and the ideas and the caring and the involvement. that want to flow through us and use us, not to be constricted, tight beings, but open and flowing, going for it in our lives. That's what we're here for. Live that way. In closing, I want to share a letter that I wrote to my oldest son, and I gave it to him on his wedding day, 20 years ago plus. And I'm just going to read the opening as I wrote it and the closing, but I'll just paraphrase the body of it. Dear Justin, remember when you were about 9 years old and we played football in the basement or outdoors when the weather was nice. It was so much fun. It was the best. We made up lots of routes, and we gave them each a name, and we'd run each one until we had it down perfectly. But no matter how fancy we made the plays, our favorite one was the long and deep route. Now, it wasn't fancy or intricate. You just took off straight down the sideline as fast as you could run, and I'd launch that football out in front of you. And to catch this one, you had to pour everything you had into it and stretch as far as you could. After a while, you got so good at it. We'd run lots of plays, but they were all just setting the stage for the super long ball. And we'd huddle, and I'd say, "Go long, Jus." You'd smile, and your eyes would twinkle, and you seemed to love to pour everything you had into the challenge. Well, so then I wrote about how proud I was of him on his wedding day, and that I had imagined that some of these new roles of husband and father that he would be assuming could seem intimidating. And so I wrote some lines reminding him of the incredible qualities that I'd seen blossom in him. Then I wrote about marriage, telling him it's better than I ever thought it could be. So many joys and adventures and such deepening. I told him, if we hang in there with it, love deepens. If we give it that work, if we hang in and learn and grow. And then I wrote about fatherhood and thanked him for the privilege of going on that journey with him and his brother. And I said, it takes a lot of energy too, I wrote, and the results and the rewards are phenomenal. And I said, but one thing I learned a little too late is that you don't have to have all the answers. What you get to do is listen better, listen a lot, and just respect the genius in every child and seek to help them be all they can be. And so having said all of that, I concluded, please don't forget, Justin, that in the game of life, you are a winner. You've overcome and become so much already. Just rely on the very best in you. The way you used to run routes, especially the super long one, and everything will be great. So as you find yourself poised before all these incredible experiences, I'm huddling with you in my heart. And all I got to say is, go long, Jus. Go long. So I say to you, go long. That's what we're here for. Stretch into your greatness. So 7 guideposts for the journey of our lives. May they bless you, enrich you, and remind you how magnificent you are. Here they are in quick review. God's got you. God's got you. Build within. Choose creatively. Trust love. The pain passes. Keep playing and go long. And may you always remember how beautiful, magnificent, and precious you are. Let's have a prayer together. Oh, infinite love, thank you that underneath us and within us are the everlasting arms of your creative spirit. Thank you for helping us come to know that we are beloved, that we are endowed with all the various qualities of your magnificence, pure life, infinite intelligence, divine creativity, unopposed power, harmony, beauty, joy, creative possibilities, wholeness, and peace. We give thanks for the miracle that has been given us, called this incarnation of life. And we remember these basic ideas that we might shine, that we might love, that we might dream, that we might get up when we fall down, that we might keep playing and go long. And I give thanks that the power to be, do, and experience all of this is already within every one of us. So in this moment, I invite you just to affirm, thank you, Spirit, for the gifts given me. Thank you for the renewal of my consciousness, that I might embrace life anew and live it fully in this precious moment with all the love and the kindness and the purpose that I hold in my soul. And I do give thanks that with every breath, your love is in me and with me, and all is well. I know this, I own this, I live this, and then so it is for me. Thank you, Spirit. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.